Kevin.
All right, you better explain yourself. I can't even fathom this trip that you're doing. So first of all, Russ, introduce yourself. Who are you, and why do you like being out in a canoe so much?
Uh, Thanks, Kevin. My name is Russ. I have a YouTube channel and a kind of sub identity, if you will, called Paddle Runner.
That is a thunderbox on the side of the river. It's been chewed on by God knows what. Holy smackers.
And I've been active online in the social media community and in the paddling community for about 5 to 6 years now. But I've been a paddler since the age of 3, and I'm now well over 50. So paddling is in my DNA, if you will. Parents introduced me to it at a very young age, the age of 3, to be honest. I've kind of missed the last half of your question. And what
Here's the thing. So we'll get into your big trip right now, but I do know
yeah,
you as one that has done the Meanest Link 5 times solo and
4 times.
4 times.
And one of those was with my buddy Camille, who is in many ways the inspiration for this big trip that I'm well, in some ways anyway, is the inspiration for this big trip that I'm going to do.
Okay,
Uh,
well, quickly explain the Meanest Link. You've done it 4 times. If someone's out there that doesn't know what this is, what is the Meanest Link?
okay, so Meanest Link is a canoe trip around and through Algonquin Park. You know this, of course, you've done it well before me. That is about 400, it's debated-ish kilometers. And it was created by Gord Baker and Alex Hurley in, I believe it was 2002-ish, somewhere in there. They devised this route, and the idea was to get all their employees out there canoe tripping and inspire them. And the idea of the trip is that it connects the 4 Algonquin Outfitters locations. Those being Oxtongue Lake, Huntsville, Brent, and Opeongo. Now, of course, at this time, they also have added in the new store at Canoe Lake, but nobody's talked about adding that to the Meanest Link. So as far as I know, it doesn't connect those routes, and we're not going on that. Nevertheless, I will be going into Canoe Lake. And then, of course, there are a couple of other stops along the way. As you know, there is the stop at Lake Labier, and there's the stop at Camp Pathfinder. And I'm sorry, I've missed part of the sub-story is, of course, that the route is also in honor of the late Bill Swift Senior, who was also known by his nickname Meanest, or Meanie. And so it's kind of an homage to him. And there's a campsite on Lake Labier that was his favorite campsite in the park. And so there's the tradition that you have to stop at his campsite and you have to have a swig of his favorite beer, Jenny Cream, and then you have to push on to the other places. And the other stop is Camp Pathfinder, which is on Source Lake, of course. And there is the big tie in there. He was I believe he was a camper way back in the day at Camp Pathfinder, and you know, generations. It's kind of got this lore about it with Camp Pathfinder. So so that's kind of the route. It connects all of them, and it as you know, it has some of the best of every part that the park has to offer. And plus, it goes outside the park, specifically the Lower Oxtongue River and the entire Big East River. And a lot of people say that the Big East River is the most challenging part of the route. It's sort of what takes it beyond Algonquin Park and makes it something a lot bigger. I would also argue that the amount of portaging on the route also makes it more than your normal canoe trip. So, yeah, there's about 68 kilometers, I believe it is, of total portaging, and the number of portages in there is debatable, and I always end up skipping some of them. So, running whatever I can and so forth. So, yeah, is that a good enough explanation?
It is. It is. I counted. I first counted 108 portages, but I think there's 110. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you're doing something similar, but even more. So you're going in a week, I think. You're heading out and doing the Meanest Link, but also adding the Brent Run. And the Brent Run is that other race people do from Canoe Lake to Cedar Lake, and then back again. I think the record is 24 hours, and last time I did it in 8 days.
Nice.
But so you're doing 1,200 kilometers. Right? And you're doing it solo. So let's get into the kilometers. Like, how many times are you going around the Meanest Link, and how many times are you doing the Brent Run in cumulative, and how long will that take?
So I'm doing each of those two routes twice. Plus, I'm connecting them all via the length, the span from Ox Tongue Lake up to Canoe Lake. Or T Lake, I guess, is the better way of saying it. T Lake, Canoe Lake. And so I could spell it out on the map that I have in front of me if you'd like, but we could do it. We could also wait until after to do that. So basically, I'm doing each route twice. The Meanest Link I'll be doing in each direction, once clockwise and once counterclockwise. And the Brent Run is kind of in multiple stages. So you start the Brent Run from Canoe Lake, you go up to Brent, and then you go back. In my case, I'll be starting the route at Ox Tongue Lake, going up to Canoe Lake, going from Canoe Lake, doing half of the Brent Run up to Brent. Then I do a complete Meanest Link, starting and ending at Brent around the loop. And then I will do the second half of the first Brent Run. And then I will start the second Brent Run by going back to Brent. And then I'll be going in the opposite direction around the Meanest Lake. Then you're turning back to Canoe Lake and then back to Ox Tongue Lake.
Okay. And
it confuses everybody.
It's confusing me, but you are going to be out canoeing for a while, but it is for a purpose. There's a purpose behind this.
It is. And sorry, to clarify, this has been planned at 6 weeks. I'm starting May 15th, planning on completing it June 26th. 27th. And there is a reason behind it. So there are a couple of things about this. Basically, I'm doing this specific route because about 4 years ago, my buddy Camille was the first person ever to do a back-to-back Meanest Link. And he did this at a time when I was personally going through some challenges. I was very stressed out in my corporate gig, and I was following him along, on the satellite tracker, watching him do this, and just longing to be him out there doing this instead of locked up in my cubicle. And so at that moment, I sort of seed was planted that someday I want to do this. I want to do this back-to-back trip. But, the opportunity to do that when I was working full-time really wasn't there. He did it in 35 days, I think. And so, and I agree that's the way to do it. This is not a race. This is a grind. And so there was that link to outdoors and canoe tripping and my passion for that, and then the element of how that gets me away from stress. And it germinated this idea that there's a connection between mental health and canoe tripping. And it's certainly been talked about a lot, it's been referenced, and a lot of the reasons that people love to get out, even though there are hardships with canoe trips. You go and you do it because it brings something to you mentally. And I don't think anybody would deny that. And for me, that's always there, but it's especially there when I go solo.
Guess what? The solo blues kicking in, that same inevitable feeling of, well, man, what am I doing out here alone? You know, ooh, happens every time. I usually get over it when I carry on in day 2, but day 1 always feels like it's hitting early today.
And so that's part of what's behind the solo activity of it. And friend Camille did it solo again. And so I decided, you know what, I've done all of this route, right? I've never actually gone out and done the Brent Run as its own route, but I've done every part of it before. And certainly the Meanest Link on its own, I've done it 4 times before. So my thought was that, you know what, I want this to be about more than just going out and doing a big long canoe trip. I want to connect some dots in here. And there was this connection, like I say, between canoe tripping, the outdoors, and the mental health benefits. And so I said, you know, why don't I do this in support of the Canadian Mental Health Association? And so I reached out to them. I got, the okay to do my campaign from them. And so I've set up a campaign for a fundraising campaign. It's on Canada Helps. And it's called Paddling for Perseverance. And I kind of love that name because perseverance really ties into mental health. And I think it very much ties into canoe tripping, right? There's that connection between persevering physically through the hardships of a canoe trip. And when you're out there, even in any capacity and you face hardship, you have to overcome that, and that requires perseverance. And when you're out there solo, it's even more. You really have to dig deep to keep yourself going at times. And you've got a great remedy for that by just being happy all the time and smiling at everything. And I agree, oh, it's a crazy windy lake. We're going to have to paddle straight into the headwind. Excellent. New challenge. Let's take it on. So those are the thoughts around that.
And you're not truly going alone because your dog is going.
Very, very true. My dog, Calie, 2 seconds here while I go and see if she'll come on, show yourself to the camera. Oh, yes. Come on. Oh, don't whine. I'm just showing you. She's being princessy right now. So Calie, I've had her now for she's 2.5. I've had her since 2023, February 2023, and she has become a big companion for me in the outdoors. And you know what? She is actually the first dog to have completed full Meanest Link. She went with me and Camille last spring, so that was her accomplishment. And you know what was funny about that, Kevin, was when I was coming back from that trip on my way back through the park, the word had gotten out that Calie was the first dog to complete the Meanest Link, and all her distant canine relatives started coming out to the highway to pay their respects. First there was a fox, then there was a coyote, and finally a wolf. If you can believe it, a wolf came out to the highway and sort of down.
That's hilarious. It's a husky mix, is it?
Yeah, she was a rescue. I got her. Her mother came down pregnant from Calie, so she was born, down here in Eastern Ontario. But yeah, I got her as a rescue. She's a husky cross of some kind. I think there's shepherd in her. I'm pretty sure there's actually border collie in her too, but I've never actually had the genetic testing, so I don't know. She's not, I'll be honest, she's not the perfect tripping companion because there's a couple things she hasn't figured out. One is she doesn't like to settle in the boat. A lot of people with canoe dogs, the dogs settle nicely in the boat. She's up, she wants to see. Sometimes she'll settle, but she'll settle on top of packs in awkward positions. And in fact, last year when we did the Meanest Link, we were out on one small lake up there near the Dixie Bond Field, and she actually tumbled out of the canoe like in the middle of while we were paddling. She was falling asleep, and she just kind of lost her balance and plunked into the lake, and I had to fish her out, get her back in. So, and then there's that, and then there's the trail etiquette part of it. She has no sense of trail etiquette. She just, she'll stand there in your path and block you, and I don't.
Well, it sounds like a good companion. So for that many days out, are you going to do food drops, or are you going to have your food the entire time?
Yeah, no, I'm doing a series of food drops. This is actually the first time I've done that. On the link. I've got it set up so I've got 6 separate food drops. 4 of them will be at Brent, one at Ox Tongue, and one at Huntsville is the way I've got it planned out. So at any given time, I'm carrying about 7 days worth of food for myself and Calie, and I've been busy for about the last month. It feels like dehydrating like crazy. So yeah.
So you made your own dehydrated food? Oh, cool. That's cool.
Mostly, yeah. I'm about at the end of that. I think I'm gonna go out and get some pre-made stuff. But I've been busy, doing that, and it's got a lot of experimentation. I don't actually know that it's all gonna work out, to be honest. But I feel pretty good about my mix of meals.
Well, the ultimate question, you've done the Meanest Link 4 times, 3 solo. You're going to do it double, and then the Brent Run double.
Yeah.
So, you answered wise, because you think time out there is good for mental health, and it's good to do a fundraiser for mental health.
Yeah.
Why the Meanest Link again, though? Why don't you just go somewhere like the Nahanni or Temagami or...
Yeah, you know why is because I'm really glad you asked that question. There is a community. There's a couple of reasons about this. One is that I I love solitude in the outdoors, and it really is to me the greatest thing. I discovered when I went and did the Meanest Link the first time that there's this terrific community that's around it, that's sort of based around it. And Gord has the Facebook page set up there, which I heartily encourage anybody interested in the link to go and join. Wonderful community of people, and I've enjoyed so much interacting with them, and so I got kind of drawn into that community, and I've been kind of a stalwart member since, and I love contributing and cheering on other people that go out, and so it's kind of in my blood. The Meanest Link. It's just got this fascination, and it's not to say that I am limited to the Meanest Link. I just feel like there's a community around it already, and so I kind of wanted to build off of that from in a big way. And I do have other trips planned this summer. Right after this one, actually, I'm going up to Temagami with some friends, and then I'm hoping the details aren't set up, but I'm hoping to get up to Wabakini in July. But this trip, it's really in tying into that community, and I think there's this terrific connection between the outdoors and the people, and I've gotten so much benefit out of connecting to great people such as yourself and so many others. And I haven't met a single person in the outdoor community that I have thought you're a real jerk. Everybody's cool, and so I really wanted to tap into that, and so there are. This is an area that does have that community established, and so it's sort of better to go. I'm not like you. I don't have this great community that goes beyond it where everybody's, Well, that's why I had to come out, reach out to you, see if we could if I get some cross promo. And again, I am so thankful for
Yeah,
this.
it's for a good cause. Sure. It's good for a good cause for sure. You know, and I know that time outdoors is good for mental health. I think a lot of people know, but what is the magic out there? So why does it take time in the woods to actually change you or make you who you really are?
Oh, great question. Um, I think it's the peace and quiet. It's the sounds of nature. It's the sights, the scents, the it's so many things. It's the crackling campfire. It's the mist over the water. It's the moose coming out of the brush into your view. It's all these things. I don't know how to explain it. It just, it just lifts you and you feel this sense of freedom, right? The greatest feeling of freedom I've ever had is being out there and just feeling part of the elements, being sort of surrendered to it in so many ways. For me, that's such a powerful, a powerful thing.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. I think a lot of people get that. So you've done this before, or throughout the past. What is the one place you're looking forward to paddle of all that mileage? What's the one place you go? I can't wait till I get to the Nipissing so I can see a moose, or I can't wait till I go across Obiango.
The Nipissing is actually dearest to my heart within the park. Actually, it is. To be honest with you, I'm in love with the Nipissing River. You know, and it's funny because it's that river that draws you in, and it it's so perfect in its beauty. But you're never tired. You're never really sad to get off of it either. Because you're drinking brown water for days. And when it's hot, it's really hot on the Nipissing. Um, so that is one of the definitely a highlight for me. Um, the Crow River. I love the Crow River. The reason I see part of this route that I love, Radiant Lake. I'm in love with Radiant Lake. Um, uh, uh, and you know what? Even the Big East, I can't wait to get back on the Big East. As crazy as that sounds, it's a beautiful river. It just has these really tough parts that you got to slog through that don't have established portages around them. Although I hear, I don't know if you're aware of this, but apparently Craig McDonald has been out flagging around Finlayson Rapids, which is, to me, the most loathsome part of the trip because it just goes on and on and on and on and on forever, and you feel like you're never going to get out. It's a part that's mentally draining. That's it. Especially when you're going upstream. When you're going downstream, it's not as bad. Yeah.
Are there any places that you wish that it didn't exist? I know to me, the Big East was a really scenic river for me, but
yeah,
it's where usually people give up. I would say 90% of the people that actually give up on going up the Big East. But is there any other very physical or mentally challenging areas on that route?
Yeah, you know what? Lake of Bays. Because if you hit it at the wrong time of the day, or wrong time of the year, everything, which I did the first time, it was just endless, and it was motorboats, and yeah, that was tough. And I'm full disclosure. Actually, the worst part for me is truly the part probably from, I guess it's Kearney Lake through to Cache Lake. And that's because of the population of, I'm sorry to say it, Sidious. But that's part of but you know what? That's part of the joy of doing this at the time that I'm doing it, because the population in the park is not going to be high. And, I missed saying this before. I meant to when you asked about what are the things that that really draw me in the most. And I think the number one about that, or a big part of that for me, is doing it at this time of year. Um, you know, from May, and I would argue June, actually, is a primo month to be up in Algonquin Park. And the reason is because the population isn't out yet. B, because school is not there, summer holidays are not out. And B, the bugs are out. And so that's also keeping people out. And then the attraction of it is everything is coming alive. You know, the birds are singing louder than ever. Uh, the the scents are so strong. All the flora is just flourishing. It's all coming to life beautifully. It's just can't wait.
That's good. What
Bugs be damned.
Yeah, there's gonna be bugs. What canoe are you bringing?
I am paddling a 16-foot Swift Keewaydin. And this is actually, it's actually their combi setup model. It's got 3 seats, and they're all removable. They're in with magnets, and so I'm taking out the bow seat, I'm taking out the stern seat, and I'm turning it into a solo canoe. And and so I paddle from the bow. Calie will be out in front of me, pack in behind. We're good to go.
And I forget your video. Are you double blade or single blade? The canoe.
This will be single blading, yeah.
Okay.
And a traditional style. So a couple of the times when I've been out doing this trip before, it's been using a more like a marathon stroke, racing stroke, and doing the hit and switch technique. And I was sort of getting into that whole racing vibe for a while, but I realized, no, I'm a tripper and I'm a traditionalist, so this will be very traditional paddling.
That's good. That's good. And I think I calculated you're doing 75 kilometers of portaging. Does it add up to 75?
I think it's a lot more than that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I believe there are 68 kilometers.
Yeah, you're doing it twice
on the Meanest Link alone. I'm doing it twice, so it's going to be whatever. I don't know, 150, 180 or something kilometers of portaging. But I'm not double carrying. Double carrying.
No, no. Man. And you said you had a map of the route in front of you?
Yeah, that's right. Would you like me to share?
Yeah.
So here's my sort of overall campaign page and route description. So, and I would like, by the way, to send a shout out to our good friend Jeff McMurtry, Maps by Jeff. He kind of customized this map for me. So the part within the park boundaries is his new map, and the part outside he spliced over and gave me the his old Jeff's map version. And so anyway, so what happens is we're starting at Oxtongue Lake. We're paddling up. Can you see my little crosshair thing here, Kevin? I don't know quite how to do it.
Oh yeah, I can see it. Yep.
Yeah. So paddling up to T Lake, and then we're crossing over to Canoe Lake, stopping in at the access point, and that's where we're going to start our first Brent run. So we go across here on the red line, all the way up around, up through to Brent on Cedar Lake. And now this is where we start the first Meanest Link. And we're going clockwise around here, down to Radiance, along the Petawawa, up the Crow River. I'm sorry, it's very small, but I can't really zoom in, but I want you to have the full view. continue up the Crow, Lake Labier, around here where Meanie's favorite site is. Carry on down Lake Labier, or across into Dixon. And then we do the big Bonfield-Dixon portage from Dixon into Bonfield, Bonfield into right into Opeongo, paddle length of Opeongo down here, and stop in and visit the folks at the Opeongo store. Oh, sorry. Up at Brent, of course, we have to go and say hello to Jake. And then down here, stop in at Opeongo, carry along through here, and about here is where I was talking about. It's not my favorite point. This is where we hit Kearney Lake, and then I have to start crossing the highway. I think we crossed the highway 3 times on this, which is going to be a bit of a challenge with Calie because I'm going to have to rig up a system to keep her well leashed. She does like to wander a little bit. So then we carry on up the Lake of Two Rivers, and then up the Madawaska to Cache Lake. From Cache, we're crossing the river, crossing the highway again up to Source Lake, and it's right here where Camp Pathfinder is. I'm sorry, I don't have those items, mapped on here, or pointed out, but they are there. Carry on, Smoke Lake, and then we keep going on our Meanest Link all the way back down to Oxtongue where we started, and then carry on from there around down the lower Oxtongue. In here's that Lake of Bays portion, across to Penn Lake, Penn into Ferry. Now we're hitting the Huntsville store. I should have mentioned that, of course, here we have to stop at the Oxtongue store, say hi to Gordon, the peeps. And then Huntsville, stop in there. And then we carry on, and this is where we get into the Big East. Follow the Big East the whole way up. There's Arrowhead Provincial Park, pass below that, hit Big Bend, and so forth. And it's right after Arrowhead, as you know, that you start to get into the kind of the sketchy part of the Big East. I think it's Bend Rapids is up there, and then shortly after there we start to see some bigger ones, and then you hit Boulder Bash somewhere. That's a really tough one. Anyway, it's too small for me to point everything out, but I think this is about a 55-kilometer grind all the way up the Big East. And then, of course, you have that big portage at the end of it. When you see the portage sign at the end of the Big East, there's that moment of, so I'm celebrating a portage. Why are we celebrating a portage right now? That portage that actually comes off the Big East is only, I think, 1,500 meters. But then right after that, you hit, sorry, I'm in the wrong spot here. Right after that, you hit the famous, what's it called? Buzzkill Mountain portage. That's quite intense, very steep climbing, very slow going. And to be honest, every time I've done that, I've had to drop part of my load and carry on up the rest of it. And then finally we cross over into McCraney Lake, head up the west side. Of course, this is when you get into a ton of portaging. I think it's 40 kilometers up the whole west side, and I think it's something like 12 or more kilometers of portaging all up that west side. This is where you're really walking across walking through the park, right? And then finally up here, we get onto the Nipissing River and follow the Nipissing all the way down to Brent. There are some good portages on the Nip too, but nothing absolutely crazy. We have a couple of my favorites, of course, High Falls portage here, and then Allen Rapids is the longest portage on the Magnificent. Okay, so then we've completed our first link. Now we cross back over.
Oh, we got 3 minutes, Russ.
Cross back over across the Brent Run. Second half all the way, middle of the lakes here. And then what we're doing is when we get back to Canoe Lake, the put in, we turn back around, go back up. So now we finished our first Brent Run. We're starting our second one. We go back, complete half of it, and now we do the whole Meanest Link in reverse. Da 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 da. Back to Brent, then back down here to complete the second half of the second Brent Run, and then carry back down to Oxton Lake to finish the trip. Sorry for the long-winded description.
You'll be lucky if you finish before winter. Oh man,
I'm pretty confident I can do it in 6 weeks. I will be honest. It is it's going to be. I may not quite have allowed enough time for each of the Brent runs, but you know what? There are plenty of hours of daylight each day doing this at a nice time of year when we're heading towards the summer solstice, and in fact, I'll be out there during the solstice, so that means more, daylight paddling hours, and I think that's great. So I'm going to try to.
Fantastic. Well, just to wrap up here because we're running out of time, Russ. So, where are you putting all this information, and for the fundraiser especially? I can put the link in, but is it on your social media?
Yes. So I have look up the Paddle Runner Facebook page. Just search for Paddle Runner, and that's all one word: PADDLERUNNER. I can send you these things after, and I'm posting updates there. I've got a Facebook page, and I also have an Instagram account that I'm posting regular sort of promo hits on. And then there's a campaigns page, which is under Canada Helps. And I will be sharing a satellite link for this. And that satellite link I will also be posting on the Paddle Runner page. And the campaign link is there too. So yeah, and look up the campaign too. You can use hashtag paddling for perseverance, and that will bring up the right links as well.
Okay, well, cheers to that. I'm not sharing whiskey because it's in the morning, so I'm having tea.
So I'm going to be, you know what, Kevin, I wasn't sure if this was a whiskey fireside chat, so I actually brought out the bottle of 10-year-old single malt just in case. I wasn't sure.
All right,
but I've been drinking water.
I'll have one after.
So cheers.
Okay, thanks. We got to go.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Good luck.